looking around, this one, we struggled with some of them, so we're going to go over them now. Okay, the time-wise, did you guys feel like you had enough time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a minute and probably 20 seconds or so per problem. And so that's about what it is in the Explore test. On this first one, this was the most missed question when I was walking around, and I think what we were mainly having issues with was the decimal, okay? When you look at it, it says, according to the table, a sedimentary rock with a grain size of 0.1 would have the name blank. Which column do I need to look at to answer that question?
Grain size.
Grain size, okay? So I'm just focusing on this one. And then we have the number 0.1. The first thing I kind of think we missed, Balin, is 0.1 or 0.01 a bigger number?
0.1.
Okay? 0.1 is a bigger number, right? So if this says 0.004 to 0.005, would my grain be in there? No, because it's bigger than that, right? And it's also bigger than this, isn't it? Okay? And then the one at the top said larger than 0.2. Is 0.1 larger than 0.2?
No.
No. Okay? So that would leave me with sandstone. I think that one just kind of tricked you guys a little bit using the decimals. On the second one, you were looking at consumer-producer relationships. I saw a lot of people jump and pick A. And here's a little testing, tip. If I look first at my graph and I look at my title and I look at my key, what am I talking about in this graph? What? Okay, consumer and producer. A says something about a predator. Does my graph ever talk about a predator?
Yeah.
Consumer and producer? No, okay, so I could get rid of A right off the back. B says something about a producer. C talks about soil. Does my graph ever look at soil?
No.
No, so I can get rid of that one. All right, now I can look at the question. The graph shows consumer-producer populations over several years. A reasonable hypothesis based on these data is that the producer population decreases, then blank. So if the producer population decreases, you have B, the producers would become extinct, or D, the consumer population will decrease. Which one seems most right based on the graph? D. I could maybe assume that they would go extinct, but that's not really what my graph is showing. My graph is showing a relationship between the producer and the consumer. Does that make sense? So you got to think about what the graph wants. On this one, we've done a few graphs like this. They're giving you a table, and then they're saying which graph represents the information in the table. So first thing I noticed down here, well, let me ask you, what's the first thing you noticed down here at the bottom when you're looking at your answers? Jacob.
Well, I noticed, I looked at the chart, it said it was 16 and 15 for city for the first one. So when I looked at my graphs, I looked at the first two, A and B, and looked if they would be 16 and 15.
Okay, so you concentrated just on this part?
Yeah.
Does that say 15 and 15? Okay, 16 and 15.
Yeah.
Even a step before that, and you're completely right, that's a good strategy to use. What did the key tell you to focus on?
I'm going to focus on
Which part of the table?
City and highway.
City and highway. So you didn't even think about that, but I just want to show people that you thought about that so fast. Over here on the right, Elizabeth, it says city and highway. So the only part of my chart I want to focus on is city and highway. So if we're taking the Explore test, that's one of those moments where you need to be writing on your book to help your mind focus. So you're looking just at this section, and then Jacob just gave us his strategy. He looked at the city and saw 16, 15, so then you just looked at A and B for each one?
Yeah.
Okay. What did somebody else do? Strategy to answer this one quickly. Everybody looked at the first two?
I just looked at the city.
Okay. All 5 points of the city?
Yeah.
And matched them? Okay. That might take a little bit longer. A lot of times you can just look at 1 point. What did you do?
I looked at the highway and looked for the biggest one, and then I looked to see
one had, like, this one for the highway on the answers had the, like,
Okay, so you looked at highway and you looked at that 23 was the biggest?
yeah,
So you knew D had to be the biggest in every one of them?
yeah.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Lucy?
I looked at city and highway, the first two, and see if they match.
Okay, so looked at those first two ones. One thing I did, and I think I told you this before, a lot of times if they're the same number, it'll jump out at you in a graph. So I saw that highway had 20 and 20, so I knew those bars would have to be even, right? So I looked through and I said, are the first two even? No. First two even? No. First two. And then I saw the last one, they had even numbers. Okay? So those are just the types of questions we want to answer quickly on the Explore test so that we have more time for those harder ones. All right, you can put your starting gate away. We're going to finish the fish lab tomorrow. We're going to do something with that video today. Okay, when we looked at the video yesterday, we were looking at, we have this new technology where they're able to take DNA and I can draw Elizabeth's blood and have all her DNA, okay? And we were talking about how science is going so fast, and now the laws are trying to come in saying, whoa, let's slow down with this information. Let's think about what we're going to do with this information before we do it. So we said, we're looking at predisposed genetic diseases, or those diseases you can inherit, and designer babies. We didn't get to the designer baby part yet of the movie. I'm hoping we can kind of finish that at the end. But it dawned on me that we're going to be looking at ethics and genetics. And I kind of started to realize a lot of students don't know what this word ethics means. So is there anybody in here who, I don't need a pretty definition, but when you hear the word ethics, or they say, that person's very ethical, or they made an ethical decision, does anybody have a word or an idea of what that might be talking about? Balin? What? A strong idea or a strong person? Yeah. Do you mean like strength or like value? Not strength. So like leader kind of thing? Okay. What are you saying?
Kind of like they use their brains for pain. Like they don't go off and do stupid stuff.
Okay. Thinking before you act?
Like religion stuff.
Okay, it might play in with religion and what we're taught in our different religions.
It goes along with work ethics, so you could be like a smart person.
Okay. Are all smart people always ethical?
No, but I don't know.
Okay. But no, it's a good idea.
It's kind of like manners.
Okay, manners. I like that.
What's right? Like, what's right?
Okay, good. All right, so it is kind of a vague word and we don't talk about it a ton. Yesterday I did give you what I found in the dictionary because I kind of had to look it up myself to think about what is ethics. And I'm going to read it to you again. It said, the dictionary definition said, the system of morals of a particular person, religion, or group. So morals, maybe we're more familiar with that word. What do you think of when someone says you have good morals? What kinds of things? Evan.
Like good stuff and you're good and stuff you're good.
Okay, like good stuff. What kind of stuff? Like what? Or can you think of a situation maybe, or an example where you show you have good morals?
I know this.
What?
Like if a lady drops her wallet and you pick it up and you give it back.
Okay, that's a good example. I had the example of if you find $5 in the hallway, do you take it to the office, or you're like, I think I'll just keep this. Extra treats for me. Okay, the other thing I told you yesterday, they said morality, decency, which if you're a decent person, if you're a good person, kind of goes along. Moral conduct, social values. So a lot of that kind of goes with like religion, and that's where we learn the difference between right and wrong. Honesty, not lying. So those are types of things that went with it. Oops. Okay, so what we're going to look at today, there's actually 5 approaches to ethics, which is meaning they've come up with 5 different ways to solve a problem. And sometimes it's very basic, and kind of what you think about when you're younger, like, is this fair or not fair? Well, that's not fair because she treated me differently, okay? So an example I gave earlier was, let's say I say homework's due on Friday. And everybody's bringing their homework in, but then Jordan comes up to me, she's all teary-eyed, and she's like, Miss Murray, you know, last night my mom had to go to the hospital, I had to go with her, I didn't have time to do my homework, I was really worried all night, and if I only believed in fairness, I would say, sorry Jordan, it was due on Friday, done, because I want to treat everybody exactly equal. But that's probably not how I'm going to handle the situation. I'm probably going to realize, oh, there's different things coming into play. What's best for Jordan? Should I still want to take that homework and let her work on it tomorrow so that she learns the content? Does that make sense? So sometimes being fair isn't always being, you know, the best answer, the best action to take. So we're going to look at these 5 approaches and kind of keep in mind that we're thinking about DNA and genetics. So what's the best way to approach the situation if we're saying, is it best that we know our DNA? How might that affect me? How might that affect my family if they know that I could be predisposed to some disease? If we take the designer babies, is that a good thing for us to do? Is that helpful to most people? Because now this family won't have a baby with a disease because, you know, we screened for diseases way before they ever got pregnant. And we're going to look at those issues. I'm going to give you this paper first, and we're actually going to be breaking into groups to look at each one. Want to help me pass out? You awake there? All right, while he's passing that out, I'm going to put you in groups of 5. You're mostly going to be with the people at your table right now. How many we have? 1. Matthew, bring a chair and move to this table. Who's sitting there? Anybody?
No one.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Noah, will you go work with Kelly's group? Marcus, you're going to sit with Travis's group. Okay. Balin, I want you to go with this group right here. Do you only have 3? Yeah. Okay, that works perfect. You 2, go there.
You only have 4 now.
Marcus. Oh, man. We're going to read the, yeah, you could. You could start passing out. That'll save time. Oh, I'm sorry, Evan. They have 5. Right here, Evan. They need 5. All right. Will you guys take a seat, please? Let me do directions, and then you can do that. All right, hands and eyes up here. Just keep it. Hands and eyes up here. Okay, I want to explain kind of whole picture here what you're going to be doing. Right now, Ms. Miller's handing each person you're sitting with a different way to make a decision. So it's how you think about the problem. Then I'm going to make you guys move again. So right now, she got handling it with fairness. He might get handling it with virtue. She might get common good, and you might get utilitarian. Okay? Then I'm going to make you guys all move, and I'm going to see everybody that had fairness, you're going to come here. Okay? So all the people who have fairness are going to work together to fill out this note section, and they're going to write bullets. How do we handle problems using fairness? Then at the end, you're going to come back to the table you're at right now, and you're going to teach each other, because there's 5 different ones. Does that make sense? So you're each becoming an expert on one, and then you're going to teach each other. Okay, so Ainsley, when you go to your group, Ainsley, you got to make sure you understand the one you're looking at, okay? Because you got to teach your group about that one. Before we break into the groups, I want you guys to look at the top paragraph on this. Each person is getting one. She's coming around. She's giving them all out. Okay, look at this top paragraph, Balin. Because we need to look at what ethics is in general to help us understand our little things. So I'm reading this top paragraph. Will you look at it with me? All right, it says ethical thinking. Moral issues greet us each morning in the newspaper, confront us in the memos on our desk, nag us from our children's soccer fields, and bid us goodnight at the evening news. So that intro doesn't really apply to you guys, but it's just saying, you know, we see all these moral issues on the news, and we have to think about how should we deal with them. The next part says, we are bombarded daily with questions about justice of our foreign policy, the morality of medical technology, so that goes along with what we're learning with DNA, the rights of the homeless, the fairness of our children's teachers, and the diverse students in their classrooms. Dealing with these moral issues is often perplexing. Perplexing can mean confusing or complicated. How exactly should we think through an ethical issue? What questions should we ask? What factors should we consider? The first step in analyzing moral issues is obvious but not always easy. Get the facts. Some moral issues create controversies. Anybody know what controversies are? Yeah. Okay, disagreements? Good. Simply because we do not bother to check the facts. So they're saying there, don't start getting in an argument before you know the facts of what you're trying to argue. The first step, although obvious, is also among the most important and the most frequently overlooked. But having the facts is not enough. Facts by themselves only tell us what is. They do not tell us what ought to be. In addition to getting the facts, resolving an ethical issue also requires an appeal to values. Philosophers have developed 5 different approaches to values to deal with moral issues. So these are the 5 ways you can think about hard problems to solve. The utilitarian approach, the rights approach, the fairness or justice approach, the common good approach, and the virtue approach. So does everybody in here now have one of these? Anybody we missed? Okay. So though you each have one of the approaches I just named, and again, these are how people decide to make decisions. How do we decide what we should do to solve a problem? So you're going to move into your group with people who have the same one, and you're going to fill out the notes at the bottom. You see where it says I'm an expert on? So I'm an expert on, you would write utilitarian if you have utilitarian, or you would write fairness if you have fairness. In your group, you're going to come up with notes from your paragraph and kind of bullet points that you're going to present back to the group you're sitting in now. Does that make sense? So you're going to come back to this group after. All right, I'm going to say right here is going to be common good. If you have common good, you really just need to take with you these 2 papers and a pencil. Right here we'll do fairness. Here we'll do virtue. Back in the corner, what haven't I done? The rights approach. No. And have I done utilitarian? Let's do that one over here. I'm only giving you 10 minutes in these groups before you go back and present. All right, go ahead. Start with reading your paragraph. What's kind of the general understanding of that one?
Like it does, something like it does good in the community, and it helps the community members.
Okay. What else? That's good. You're on the right track with the community. What? Okay, so being active in the society, so when you're thinking about being a good citizen, so this one's kind of looking at what decision is going to help the most people. Does that kind of make sense? You're looking at the whole community as the whole. You're not just focusing on one individual. So you're saying what's going to help everybody the most. It is hard. You might need to reread. So reread that and look for how are they making the decision. And then what are they kind of comparing when they try to make their decision?
doesn't fit your pencil.
Look at the second paragraph.
Who will be affected by each action and what benefits or harms will be derived from each?
So what are we comparing?
I don't know if I can handle this. Good versus bad.
Okay, so it's kind of like, have you ever made like a pro and con list to say, make a choice? I do this all the time.
What is that?
Like you look at what's all the good things about it and what's all the bad things.
Yeah,
It can be something simple, like if you want to dump your boyfriend, what are all the good things about your boyfriend, and what are all the bad things about your boyfriend, and should you break up with him or not? So you're looking at the benefits versus the harms. Okay, so do we have more benefits? And then you might want to choose that one. Which one is the thing that's going to cause the least amount of harm? Okay, so people should be honest with you. You have the right to privacy, to not be injured, and then the agreed thing's kind of weird. That's kind of like a contract. If if you go into school and a teacher says they're going to grade in a certain way, and that's how you think you're going to be graded, and they do it different, then they kind of broke your contract in a way. Does that make sense? Like they told you they're going to do it this way, you kind of agreed upon doing it that way, and then they change it. But so in this decision, they're saying, if I take an action, am I breaking any of these rights? So if we think about it with the DNA thing, if we decide that the government can have all our DNA and we're going to put it in this big system, does that break our right to privacy? Have they taken something of ours? Does that kind of make sense? So when they make a decision, they look at, are we breaking any of those rights?